That was the first sentence that ever made sense of her. A woman who broke and burned in the same breath. I didn't know her long enough to understand her, and yet not a single day has passed where I haven't tried. It began on a Thursday evening, at a small get-together where laughter was loud and conversations meant nothing. I was standing in the kitchen pretending to scroll my phone, trying not to look like the outsider I always feel like, when she walked in. Not with confidence that asked for attention, but with the kind that didn't need it. Mid-40s, hair in a loose knot like she'd done it while thinking of something else, soft lines around her eyes that made her look like she'd loved fiercely once, and paid for it. She didn't notice me at first. She opened a cabinet for a glass, realized it was too high, exhaled, and reached again anyway. Something about that small sigh, tired, controlled, almost private, hooked me before her eyes ever met mine. "Here," I said, trying to sound casual as I stepped closer and grabbed the glass down. She blinked slowly, as if she had to return from somewhere far away before answering. "Thank you?" Her voice wasn't low or seductive, just quiet, like someone who'd learned to speak only when it mattered. She didn't move back. Neither did I. The room wasn't crowded, but suddenly it felt too small around us. The cheap yellow light washed over her cheekbones, making them look like something a painter would obsess over. She held the glass to her chest with both hands as if it were something delicate. I noticed her knuckles before I noticed her smile, the way she rubbed her thumb against the rim like she was grounding herself. "You look like you want to leave," she murmured. "I do," I answered before I could soften it. For a second her laughter flickered, beautiful, but gone too soon. "Me too." There should have been space after that. A natural ending to a short exchange between strangers. But neither of us stepped away. I could smell the faintest trace of vanilla and something warmer, maybe her perfume or maybe just her skin. It was enough to make the hair on my arms rise. She brushed past me to get to the fridge, not because she needed to, but because it was the only reason not to keep facing me. Her shoulder grazed my chest. The touch was light, barely there, but I felt it like pressure. I almost said her name, even though I didn't know it yet. She poured water into the glass, paused, and stared at it instead of drinking. Like she was thinking too hard about something she didn't want to think about. "Do you ever wish you could forget people you haven't even met yet?" she asked. It was the strangest question anyone had ever asked me, but it didn't feel strange coming from her. "I don't think that's how it works," I whispered. She finally looked at me then, directly. Her eyes locked onto mine with a kind of stillness that wasn't attraction, wasn't affection, something deeper, something like she knew I was going to matter long before I did. Her fingers trembled slightly when she set the glass down. Not fear, not weakness, something like recognition. She reached toward my arm, deliberately slow, hesitant, as if she was searching for permission in my expression. My breath caught, and I didn't step away. Her fingers were inches from my skin when, "Mom?" a voice called from the living room. She froze. My heart dropped. Her hand stopped in midair. She didn't turn immediately. She just closed her eyes, one long, silent second, then opened them with an apology she didn't speak. And before I could say a word, she stepped back. She stepped away. The moment, whatever it was, shattered. But her eyes stayed on mine long enough to make sure I'd come back for the pieces. I didn't see her again until a week later, long enough to convince myself that whatever happened in that kitchen was nothing, that I'd imagined the whole thing, that she probably hadn't even meant to touch me. But I still replayed it, the hesitation in her hand, the way her eyes stayed on mine even when she stepped back. I shouldn't have thought about her that much. She was older, she had a life, responsibilities. I had no place in any of it. Still, when her son invited me over again to help with a group project, I agreed faster than I should have. She was in the living room this time, sitting on the edge of the couch with a book open but not really reading. She lifted her head when I walked in, slowly, like she wasn't sure she was allowed to look. "You're here," she said. Not welcoming. Not surprised. Just affected. I tried to reply casually. "Yeah, project stuff." But she didn't look away. Her gaze held me a fraction too long, like she was checking whether I'd changed my mind about something neither of us had ever said aloud. Her son called me upstairs, and I started to go. I should have gone, but as I passed her, she reached out and lightly touched my sleeve. Barely anything. But her fingers stayed there a heartbeat too long. "Thank you for last time," she murmured. "There's nothing to thank me for." She gave a small smile that didn't reach her eyes. "There is. You were kind. I don't get a lot of that lately." She let go before I could ask what she meant. Maybe she didn't want me to. Upstairs I should have focused on the project, but every time someone laughed or music played downstairs, I wondered if she was still sitting there, or if she was hoping I'd come back down. By the time I finally did, the others had left and the house felt too quiet, like it had been waiting. She was wiping down the counter, moving slowly, deliberately, like she didn't want the evening to end yet. "You don't have to clean everything yourself," I said. "It gives me something to do," she replied. "Silence can be loud in this house." I leaned against the counter beside her. Close. Too close. I told myself I was helping, but I didn't pick up a cloth, I just watched her hands. There was no ring on her finger. I shouldn't have noticed. She stopped wiping the counter, but didn't step away. "People think getting older makes you stronger," she said suddenly, not looking at me. "Sometimes it only makes you quieter." I could have pretended I didn't understand, but I did. More than I should have. "You don't have to be quiet with me," I said. For the first time, she let herself look at me with nothing held back, no polite distance, no controlled warmth. Just truth. Soft, hurting, hopeful. Her breath brushed my collarbone when she exhaled. I didn't move. Couldn't. "We shouldn't," she whispered, but she didn't step away. "I know." Her hand lifted, slow again, unsure again, then finally rested on my shoulder. Not seductive. Not bold. Just a touch from someone who needed to feel something real. I covered her hand with mine, gently, like it was something fragile. She closed her eyes. And for one suspended moment, we didn't lie to ourselves. The next time I saw her, it wasn't planned. I came over to return a laptop charger her son left in my bag. A simple exchange, 3 minutes at most. That's what I told myself. She opened the door, surprise flickering across her face before she hid it behind composure. "Oh, you?" 2 seconds too soft to be casual. I held up the charger like a shield. "Just dropping this off." She nodded, but didn't reach for it. Instead, she stepped back and let me in, like refusing would have been more suspicious than allowing it. "He's not here," she said. "He went out with friends." The charger suddenly felt heavy in my hand. I placed it on the coffee table, trying not to look at her, because I knew if our eyes met, everything we'd been pretending didn't exist would rush back too fast. "Thank you," she said quietly. That should have been the end. I should have turned and left. But she walked past me to close the curtains, brushing against my arm, barely, and I knew it wasn't an accident this time. "How are you?" I asked. I meant it more than I should. She paused with her hand on the curtain. "I'm managing. Managing. Not living. Not fine. Managing." I stepped closer. I didn't touch her, but the space between us tightened like a pulled thread. She didn't move away. "You don't have to pretend when it's just us," I whispered. She shut her eyes for 1 second, as if steadying herself. "That's exactly why we can't be alone." But she still didn't walk away. Her shoulder rose and fell with a slow breath. I could feel the warmth radiating from her skin. I didn't touch her. I swear I didn't, but it felt like we were already touching. And then, a phone buzzed loudly on the table. Both of us jumped. She turned quickly and checked it. A friend texting. "I'm dropping by in 10. Don't go anywhere." Panic flickered through her eyes, not because she was guilty, but because this moment was real enough to fear. "You should go," she said, but her voice broke on the last word. "We didn't do anything." I said, though saying it out loud only made it sound more dangerous. We almost did. Her breath trembled. She reached for the charger and handed it to me, a polite gesture, a clear goodbye, but our fingers touched. Too long. Too warm. Too intentional for an accident. The room felt airless. If someone sees you leaving now, she whispered, they'll ask questions. Then I'll stay until they get here. Her eyes widened, fear, relief, and something hungrier than both. That makes it worse, she breathed. But she didn't take her hand away. She stepped back only because she had to, not because she wanted to. We moved to the kitchen, not speaking, every footstep tight with restraint. I leaned against the counter, trying to look casual. She stood across from me, pressing her palms to the cool granite like she needed help staying upright. We're not doing anything wrong, I said. She laughed softly, the saddest sound I've ever heard. It's never the wrong things that ruin people. It's the almosts. The doorbell rang, once, twice, too soon. Her friend called her name cheerfully. She looked at me, panic, desire, fear, all crashing in her eyes. I reached forward, reflexively, and touched her waist just enough to steady her. She gasped, not from surprise, but because she didn't want to pull away. She didn't. For one heartbeat, one forbidden, suspended heartbeat, her forehead leaned toward mine like gravity made the decision for us. We didn't kiss. We didn't need to. Her breath was on my mouth when she whispered, "Don't go far." The house was quiet when I returned that evening, quieter than it had any right to be. The kind of silence that hums in your ears, presses against your chest, makes it impossible to breathe normally. She was in the living room, sitting on the edge of the sofa, knees tucked under her, staring at nothing. Not a book, not her phone, just the space between us. And yet, somehow, it felt full. Too full. When she looked up, our eyes met. Something snapped. Not anger, not longing, not shame, all of it, tangled together, uncontainable. "I can't keep doing this," she whispered. I swallowed hard. "Doing what?" "Pretending it doesn't matter," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "Pretending I'm not. I'm not thinking about you when I shouldn't be." Her words hit me like a hand to the chest. I wanted to step closer, touch her, reassure her, tell her that every thought, every heartbeat mirrored her own. But I stayed where I was, because moving too fast felt like falling off a cliff. Her fingers twitched at her sides, betraying the calm she was trying to hold. I reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Her skin was warm, tender, and for a second, the air between us became a tangible thing, pulsing, alive, impossible to ignore. She didn't pull back. She leaned into the touch, just slightly, just enough to confirm what I already knew. The desire we were denying had taken shape, and it was breathing between us. I started, my voice low, thick with something I couldn't name. "I don't know how to stop thinking about you." Her breath hitched. Her lips parted slightly, and I could feel the faintest brush of it against mine. Every second stretched. My pulse thundered in my ears. The air was too tight, too close, too intoxicating. "Do you know how much that terrifies me?" she whispered. "That I feel this for someone who shouldn't even be here." "I don't care about shouldn't," I said. "I only care about right now. About you." Her eyes softened, scared, raw, desperate. She shifted slightly, and her shoulder pressed against mine. I felt her heartbeat against my chest. My hand lingered near hers, close enough to touch, too afraid to move, too alive not to. We were suspended on the edge of something dangerous, something inevitable. My lips hovered just above hers, trembling slightly, tasting the anticipation, the fear, the impossibility of the moment. And then her phone buzzed loudly on the coffee table. She flinched, stepping back instinctively. The spell broke, almost. But her gaze didn't leave mine. Neither did mine leave hers. She breathed. "I can't." Her words faltered. The unfinished confession hung in the air, weighted with tension, with need. I leaned closer anyway, unable to resist, and whispered, "Then let me finish it for both of us." Her eyes widened. Her lips parted. And for one suspended heartbeat, the world disappeared, until the front door opened, and a voice called out her name. We froze. Breathless. Heart racing. Inches apart. And yet, somehow, impossibly, the closeness remained. The almost was still ours. The evening was supposed to be ordinary. I told myself that over and over as I walked up the steps to her house, pretending my heartbeat was normal. But ordinary had never been an option with her. She opened the door before I could knock, and I saw it immediately, the way her posture stiffened, the slight tension in her jaw. Something had happened. "What's wrong?" I asked, stepping inside. She hesitated. Her hands twisted in front of her like she didn't know where to place them. "It's complicated." I could feel it before she even spoke. The air between us thickened, tight, almost dangerous. "It's nothing," she said, but her voice cracked at the edges. She glanced toward the living room, then back at me. Her breath hitched slightly as if the very act of standing near me demanded caution. I stepped closer, unconsciously, drawn to her like gravity. She didn't pull away. "Not yet." "Tell me," I said softly. "I can handle it." Her eyes flicked down to my chest, then back up, and she exhaled sharply. "I don't know if I should." I reached out, lightly brushing her shoulder. The touch was almost accidental, almost casual, but I felt her tremble, and my chest tightened at the reaction. "I heard you," she admitted suddenly, her voice almost a whisper. "Me?" Her eyes met mine, full of that dangerous mixture of fear and longing. "Talking to your friend. About us." My stomach dropped. "They heard what?" "That you like me." Her words came out in a rush, and she took a step back, but her hand lingered near mine, as if resisting and yearning at once. I tried to process it, and felt heat crawl up my neck. I shouldn't have felt this elated. I shouldn't have felt so alive. But I did. "I didn't tell anyone," I said quickly, my voice low. "It wasn't supposed to, I know." Her gaze softened, then hardened again. "But now that it's out, it changes everything." The way she spoke made me aware of the space between us, too close to ignore, too charged to leave empty. I could feel her warmth in the dim light, the faint scent of her perfume mixing with the tension, making my pulse hammer in my ears. Her fingers brushed against mine as she reached for the coffee cup on the counter, and I didn't pull away. Instead, I let my hand hover near hers, feeling the electricity that neither of us wanted to admit. I didn't know you felt that way," she whispered. Her eyes searched mine, vulnerable yet defiant. "All this time, I thought I was imagining it." "You weren't," I said, voice thick. "I've been trying not to ruin everything." Her hand twitched in response, almost falling onto mine. She stepped closer, the warmth of her body pressing against the edge of mine without contact. "We're risking too much," she said, breathing uneven, her chest rising and falling like a warning. "Maybe," I admitted, my own voice a fraction above a whisper. "But not feeling this feels like losing it before it even begins." She swallowed. Her eyes softened, lingering on mine, and the distance between us disappeared for a heartbeat. I could feel her leaning in, the faint brush of her hair against my shoulder, the almost touch of lips hovering like a promise. Then she pulled slightly back, trembling, whispering, "Are you ready for this?" I didn't answer. I only stepped closer. And for the first time, we didn't hesitate. Not completely. The front door clicked somewhere in the distance. And everything shifted. Danger, desire, impossibility, all at once. The air in the room was heavy, almost electric, each breath between us loud enough to fill the silence. I could feel her just inches away, the warmth of her body brushing mine without actually touching, and it was more intimate than any hand-holding, any casual closeness. Her eyes caught mine, wide, searching, a storm of fear, desire, and something else I didn't have a name for yet. I wanted to close the distance, wanted to let the world collapse around us, and finally stop pretending. "I can't," she whispered. Her voice shook, soft, fragile, trembling on the edge of surrender. I reached for her hand, not to pull, not to hold, but just to feel the truth beneath the hesitancy. Her fingers twitched, hovering above mine, almost touching. Almost enough. Then don't, I said quietly. Stay right here. Just stay. She shook her head slightly, lips parting. It's too late for staying. I feel it too much. You feel it too much. I swallowed, my pulse hammering in my throat. Then we can stop pretending. Stop waiting for permission. Stop pretending the rest of the world matters right now. Her gaze dropped for a second, then returned with the weight of everything she hadn't said, everything she had wanted but feared. I could feel the tension coiling in her body, the careful control she maintained cracking just enough that I could see the raw person underneath. I shouldn't. She breathed. You shouldn't what? I whispered, leaning closer, careful not to overstep, careful not to scare her away. Say it. Do it. Feel it. You already do. Her lips trembled. My hands hovered at her sides, aching to hold her, but we didn't need hands. The closeness alone, the near miss of breath, was enough to convey everything. The almost touch of my forehead against hers made the world disappear. I'm afraid, she admitted, voice barely audible. Of losing myself. Of losing you. Then stay. I murmured. Stay with me in this moment. Only this moment. We don't have to decide everything, only right now. Only us. She exhaled sharply, the air brushing across my mouth. And in that instant, the tension broke, not in a dramatic way, not in a perfect cinematic rush, but in the small, human collapse of two people finally letting themselves be known. Her eyes softened, and I saw it, the quiet surrender, the acknowledgement of desire, of fear, of everything messy and impossible. We didn't need words. We didn't need explanation. The inches between us held years of longing, hesitation, and unspoken confessions. I moved slightly closer. She didn't pull back. I felt her lean toward me, just a fraction, enough that I could feel her heartbeat against mine. She didn't resist. She didn't rush. She simply allowed it, the raw, unpolished truth of our connection. And in that breathless silence, with the world pressing in and yet disappearing at the same time, we understood each other fully, our fears, our wants, our impossible, messy hearts. We were no longer pretending. We were finally present. And that was enough. The morning light filtered through the blinds, soft and warm, cutting across the quiet room where we had spent the night. I woke first, lying beside her, feeling the slow rise and fall of her chest, the small shift of her body against mine. She stirred, murmuring something unintelligible, and I reached out instinctively, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Her eyes opened, meeting mine, and for the first time, the weight of everything, the fear, the hesitation, the age gap that had once felt like an invisible wall, seemed to dissolve. "Morning," I whispered. She smiled, small and genuine, like she had finally exhaled after holding her breath for years. "Morning," she replied, her voice still husky from sleep. I didn't move. I wanted to savor this, to let the quiet intimacy settle around us like a warm blanket. Her hand found mine, fingers intertwining naturally, like they had always belonged together. I felt her thumb trace little circles on my skin, grounding us both. "You're really here," she said softly. "After everything, you stayed." "I never left," I admitted. "And I'm not going anywhere." There was a pause, not uncomfortable, just full of presence. The kind of pause that holds years of unspoken words, regrets, and longing, finally allowed to exist without fear. She leaned against me, head resting on my shoulder. I wrapped an arm around her, careful, protective, savoring the warmth of her body and the quiet rhythm of her breathing. For the first time, there was no tension, no almosts, just us, simple and real. "I was scared," she confessed, barely audible. "Scared of everything. What people might think. What I might feel." "I know," I said, pressing a soft kiss to the top of her head. "But we're not thinking about anyone else right now. Only us." Her hand tightened around mine, and I felt it, the full surrender, the quiet trust, the acknowledgement of something neither of us could have forced. She shifted slightly, and her forehead rested against mine. I could feel the gentle warmth of her breath, the faint flutter of her pulse, the intimacy of all the moments we had stolen together, condensed into this single, perfect one. We stayed like that for a long time, letting the world wait outside the walls of the room. No words were necessary. We were close enough that the silence itself became a language, telling everything we had needed to say. Finally, she lifted her eyes to mine, a slow smile curling across her lips. "I think this is where we start." "Yes," I whispered. "Right here." And in that quiet, sunlit room, fingers entwined, bodies close, hearts aligned, we began, not perfect, not polished, but entirely ours.